So now you were an intern. Everything was going great. It's March 2007.
Yeah.
You are now a production assistant at Disney Interactive Studios. Were you excited or what?
I was excited. Yeah, I was very lucky. I had my resume on monster.com.
I remember that. Yeah.
So it was on monster.com, and somebody found it, and they said, "Oh yeah, you could work out. Why don't you come and interview?" And I was super nervous because this was the first time that I had been at a corporate environment that was, I mean, I was at G4 for a bit, but G4 wasn't as big as Disney was. And so being there and seeing, this is also where Imagineering was run. So you were seeing all this like cool Disney stuff all over the place. So
you're like starstruck when you walked in.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
oh my God, I made it.
Yeah. I'm like, as an animation nerd, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then you had to go, like we got to go to the studios that are in Burbank and I saw Ratatouille. It was kind of like a private screening, and this is where they have the Seven Dwarves like holding up all the buildings, right?
Nice.
On this. So seeing all this stuff, they had all these great. I can't remember what the technology was back in the day, where they had the different layers of backgrounds, and then the camera would go through it, and it would kind of like look like it was a forced perspective.
Oh yeah, I've seen something like that. I think they had it in one of their documentaries where they were showing like they started peeling back each layer and be like, see this tree? It was a part of this grander image that we zoomed out of, and you're like, what?
And they had that original thing there, and then they had the camera above it, right? So it would hang out really high up, and so seeing that there, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I was very excited to be there. I was very happy to be there and
awesome.
Work on it. I got to work on Pixar titles. There were some less exciting things about it. I worked on like Hannah Montana games or DDR Disney Channel edition. So I was like, we got to get like That's So Raven and Zack and Cody in the game. Like it was just, as somebody who like loves death metal and stuff like that, it's just not super exciting to me.
But there were learning moments. I mean, I think in those instances, you got to work with celebrities. You got to work with the limitations that brings onto a project, working with celebrities and what to do and not to do, which does change as you move up in the industry from working on titles that are show titles, like TV show titles or movie entity titles and stuff like that. So that's pretty crazy. So at the time when you were there, what are some of the things that you take away from that that would be important? So let's just say this was your first job, right? This was the first job that you had.
This first like career thing. Like I had worked in the restaurant industry for years.
Yeah. No, I don't mean like your first job working. I mean this is your
yeah.
first job towards your goal of becoming what you are now.
Yeah.
So was this your only opportunity? Did you pick this opportunity other than the person finding you? Were there other prospects there, or were you like Disney on it?
It was Disney, and then there was another opportunity that I had that I ended up not getting. Like I went through a bunch of rounds of interviews, and so I didn't get that one, and I'm thankful I didn't actually because it allowed me to get to the point of where I'm at now.
Nice, gotcha.
So I was happy to be rejected. I got really far, and I got to the end, and it was between me and another guy, lost, right? But it got me to where I am now, so I'm actually really happy that happened.
So now that we're talking about this is your first job, let's, in retrospect on this aspect, the interview process that you brought up. So what did you experience at that time? Was that the first time you got interviewed for something outside of the internships? Those are more educational and they're trying to help. But what did you experience in the round of interviews that you went through that you did for this and the other one, like that you can take away?
Those interviews I think were a lot less critical than some of the ones that I was as my career got further along. I think it was kind of more like, look, if we get an intern or a production assistant or something, like what are they going to do, right? They're not going to mess up too much, right? So I felt like they were asking a lot of, pretty basic organizational stuff,
Like, do you get up early in the morning? Do you brush your teeth? Will you be here on time? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how responsible are you type stuff?
Yeah, it was stuff like that. Or like, what do you do in your free time? And what do you do, why do you want to get into this field? And, what makes you think that you're qualified to handle this position? And, there was a lot of stuff that I would think is not challenging.
Okay.
It was also so long ago that I think it was like,
You're just like, yeah, I think I'll be okay doing this. All right, you're hired.
Yeah. It wasn't anything too challenging that I recall. But I do remember, I was super nervous, and I just kind of went home and was like, oh God, I hope they contact me soon to let me know about this, and I hope I don't mess this up, and I was super stressed about it, and they called back and said, yeah, we want to offer you the position. But here's the thing, it was only a 6-month gig. Mm-hmm. They basically said, at the end of this 6 months, if we don't have a position that's available for you, we have to let you go. It's a 6-month gig. So I was hoping the whole time, like, I hope they have an associate producer position open or something,
Yeah, and it's weird when they do that, when they tell you early, because your motivation for working changes, because you're working hard now because you want to keep your job, as opposed to working hard just for the sake of the learning and getting better. And
it was scary for me because I had never been unemployed up until that point, right? I'd always worked in the retail or restaurants or something. I had always been employed, and so the prospect of being unemployed for that scared the hell out of me, right? Because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, what do you do? Oh my, am I gonna make enough money for rent? Like, it was nerve-wracking, but I learned a lot. I learned how it was more on the publishing side. It was less on the development side. So I learned a lot of working with outside teams and how you kind of track what's going on, and working with them to get them the assets that they need, because they were making, like, at the time, like WALL-E or Ratatouille, and Pixar was very protective, and rightfully so, of their assets because they don't want them getting leaked on the internet or anything like that. So you'd have these developers that are like, hey, what does a spaceship look like in WALL-E? And you're like, well, we can't take it with you, I'm sorry, right? And so you're like, well, how are we supposed to draw a thing? And like, well, here's some art that we can get, right? And sometimes they would just have them come on site and then just draw from that, and then just have to take it home and remember from memory. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so there was there's some stuff that was not great there. If you're trying to make a product that looks exactly like the movie, then it means that you're going to have some challenges, because if they're very tight-lipped about letting anything out asset-wise.
So that's why you get those products that come out where you're like, this kind of looks like the character, but it's not like the character. 100%. Yet it's endorsed by the studio.
And the weird part, too, is that there are brand managers, right? Their job is to look at, that doesn't look like Mickey. Mickey does this. He has this shape. He has this look. And so there are brand managers that look through those things, and they have to kind of go like, it's kind of close. And then what happens is, towards the end of the project, the game or the movie is going to be coming out in a few months. And so they're a little bit more flexible with what they can kind of show, so that you can fix more stuff at the end, but then it's kind of this crazy rush to get it through and done.
Yeah, it's like adding feature creep, because you're like, we got to change all this stuff, and changing all that stuff changes all this stuff too.
Yes. And the brand managers that are looking at it go, it doesn't look like this, or this isn't true, or why does it look like that? So there's a lot of stuff to coordinate there, and I felt almost bad in some ways for the devs that were making this stuff, because it was like, man, they don't have the assets that they need. And but you do what you need to do, and the weird thing is, in a lot of cases, even those games, they'll do really well because the movie hype is up. So if Ratatouille just came out, they're like, oh man, the Ratatouille game's out, and there's an 8-year-old that's walking by in Target, and it's like, oh, the Ratatouille game, then you get it.
Yeah, they know their audience. They definitely know their audience, and those things are timed around the movies, like you're talking about the releases and stuff. It's very important, because when you miss those dates,
the hype goes away.
There's hell to pay too.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. If you miss that hype window, your sales go down, right? So you need to be able to deliver on time, and you need to make a product that's not completely terrible. And this is, I think, a lot of times why movie tie-ins are so bad is that, it's like, okay, well,
rushed.
You have to get it on time. There's no real room for experimentation. It's just get it in, get it done by this point in time. We need it on the shelf. Who cares if it's good? Just go. So if you can really involve those people very early on and show them the assets and get them all the thing and experiencing what the game is. But it's weird. In way later, I think I picked this part up. But a lot of, I think, what makes video games interesting is that you're trying to fulfill a fantasy, right? And so if you are WALL-E, you have to, okay, what does WALL-E do? What is his thing? Right. And so they have to figure out what that is and make it look good and get it done on time is super challenging. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, you're not only making a game, you're making a game under such tight limitations